welcome to another episode of Smarketing. So this week, Yaron is going to take a little bit of a break because A, he deserves one. B, I just want to make sure everybody knows that I did not fire him. He's awesome. He's an incredible co-host. I already miss him, but he is making his way back to the States. So he's taking just a little bit of a break. So I decided to invite a few guests to this segment who can definitely talk about what's going on in this industry regarding trade shows. Trade shows right now are up in the air. We don't know when they're going to be back, and it seems like they have pivoted in platform. So what I'm doing is I've invited a few guests to go ahead and give us a heads up, and we're going to discuss a little about the direction of trade shows, when they'll be back, what's going on, and how companies can basically take the momentum now and see what they can do to brand themselves, to give themselves exposures while trade shows are basically taking a break. So with me, let me go ahead and introduce Will Wise, Peter O'Neill, and Matt Iacorn. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and do your own introduction. So we'll start with Matt. Matt comes from the trade show exhibit house point of view. So go ahead, Matt.
So thank you for introducing us. It's great to have you guys all here. Yes, my name is Matt Iacorn, Visual Communications. I'm one of the partners, and we are now what you would call a virtual trade show organization. So we specialize originally for the last 59 plus years in design and build and service of trade show exhibits, as well as retail stores and lobbies and museums and that sort of thing. But obviously in COVID now, there's a whole new normal, which you're going to probably get into in a few minutes, and we can talk to that a little bit. So we are now doing a lot more of that.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. And we'll definitely touch upon a couple of things that you said. Will, let's go ahead and introduce you.
Good, yeah, Janet, thanks for getting us together here. I think it's timely as we're almost into Labor Day mode and then really gearing up for next year. So yeah, I'm a group vice president at Reed Exhibitions. I oversee our ISC security events in the US, also Mexico, Brazil. There's a couple other sectors I oversee for our events here: transportation, casino, gaming, and e-commerce as well.
Okay, great, thanks, Will. And Peter, let's go ahead and go to you.
Hey, Janet, thanks for having me on with Matt and Will. I'm Peter O'Neill. I'm the CEO of ASIS International. Been in the association management business and show management business 27 or more years. We are the owners of GSX, this year named GSX Plus, given the virtual nature of it, and excited to hear and learn from Matt and Will tonight.
Okay, awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. So let's get right to it and talk about this. Direction of trade shows. What I want to know is, how have you pivoted? So I know that GSX has now become a platform of calling it GSX Plus because it has gone online. Will, ISC is also going to be an online platform. And Matt, how have you pivoted from that point of view of being an exhibit house?
So as I discussed earlier, I mean, you at one point you used to do face-to-face marketing. Obviously, really nothing can really replace face-to-face marketing. We all know that. It's just a matter of when we can get back to actually having large gatherings. And right now, we don't know when that's going to happen. We hope it's going to happen in the next 6 months to 9 months. We're not necessarily sure. How we pivoted as an organization, you have to offer ways to engage people. That's what it really comes down to. Nowadays, Zoom meetings, we're doing one right now. People get distracted with all different things going on. So what do you have to do? You have to come up with ideas and meaningful ways to still promote your products, promote your services in a meaningful, engaging way. There's ways you can do that with having gamification. You can have leaderboards. You can do all sorts of things. But the bottom line is that right now it is virtual, and it's got to be something that really grabs your attention very quickly and keeps you engaged. And that's what we're kind of doing.
And Matt, you guys are now also delivering road shows to companies, correct?
We are. So what we're seeing right now is that the industry in general has gone from doing trade shows, which was a big part of my business, was basically a lot of trade shows. That's not happening. So we are doing, what we're seeing right now is a hybrid model. So we're bringing some virtual capabilities to the table, as well as bringing some of these road shows. Road shows can be a mobile trailer, tractor trailer that drives around in different locations. It can also be as simple as taking maybe a small section of your products and bringing that to your customer locations, and that way you're keeping that engagement under that 25 to 50 people.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to basically really point out, and thanks for that, Matt. I want to point out the different options that companies do have to think outside the box to basically bring things still to their customers or to their audience. But let's go ahead and get to you, Will and Peter. As far as getting these trade shows online and making them virtual, two things I want to talk about is, can you tell us a little about what that looks like? What will those platforms look like? Because I think the industry is like, wait a second, how do you do a virtual trade show? And I definitely want to go ahead and have the audience know what that platform looks like. What should they expect when GSX Plus comes around and also ISC West comes around? So I'm going to start with you, Peter, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not at all. I think that Matt touched on a lot of what you're going to broadly see in the space regarding meetings. I think the data points are showing. In fact, I was on a call today. One of Will's colleagues, Hervé, was on the same call, hosted by a company called MDG, a Freeman-owned company now. And the data points are showing that largely through 2021, you're unlikely to see, I'm sort of paraphrasing the data here, live events. And so anybody with shows in the first 2 quarters of next year are going to have to be thinking really hard. And anybody with shows in the last 2 quarters of next year are going to have to be thinking harder for just a longer period of time, right? A little bit of a different kind of longer runway. So from a general live show perspective, and I'll be curious to see if Will or Matt disagree, they certainly can. I think the data is showing us that, look, this is probably a 2 or 3 year challenge for organizations like mine. This is where content becomes king, and organizations like associations are well poised, I think, in the marketplace to be able to deliver high quality, content rich, content driven, curated content driven programs, whether they're in a digital virtual format, whether they're
somebody comes onto, all right, so walk me through GSX.
So that's a broad statement around
Right.
where I think the live meetings are. Regarding GSX Plus, you're largely going to see us do what you've seen a lot of the other big show event organizers do. We're attempting to create a marketplace on the one hand, combined with all of our content learning. We, live have about 230 or so programs. Those will drop to around 130. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do, how we'll package the other 100 under a different, or I guess a different content package or bundle. And then in between all that, you have what we call the engagement piece, right? So in the case of an association, we have all of our volunteer engagement piece. We have all the engagement with the marketplace and with the education. We have chosen the Freeman platform. It's a relatively highly interactive platform. I think the other piece that Matt pointed, it's going to be a 4-day event, five-day event, Monday through Friday. And we kind of have a dual master we're serving. We have a marketplace exhibit master, so to speak, that we're serving. And then our members need and look for a certain number of CPEs, continuing professional education units.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a marketplace need we have to meet, and we have an education need we have to meet. You want to really talk, I think, more about the marketplace need today, which is totally fine. Matt hit it on the head. I think that it's extraordinarily difficult and different to have a digital marketplace event. And I think that it's incumbent upon show organizers like ASIS, like Reed, like others, as well as our partners, the exhibitors and sponsors, to really dig in and figure out how to make these platforms work for them. It is not like a live event, and Matt is correct. And so I think certainly we play a role. I think Reed and others play a role in helping the exhibitors, but I think the exhibitors also have to educate themselves and take the time to understand how can they get the most value for their time and their money.
Now, are you walking the exhibitors through the best practices? You're walking the exhibitors through how to really engage?
We are. So we have a generic video that shows each exhibitor how to use the Freeman platform that we're using. And then we're making 1-by-1 calls from top to bottom, inside and out, to explain, to different organizations, different partners, what's available to them, what may work better for them, given what they're trying to accomplish, so on and so forth. Okay. So it's a many-to-one and a one-to-one approach.
Okay, so great. No, all right. So then, Will, how about you guys? How about ISC? Are you guys finding, what platform are you guys using? What advice can you give to anybody who is, there's a lot of people who have not attended a virtual event. What should they expect? What I want to know is, where are companies going to find success in this, and where will they find success, or how can they find success in attending a virtual trade show or being a part of a virtual trade show?
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting at Reed is we do so many events across so many industries. I've really been, looking at the differences. Okay, for a jewelry show, Comic-Con, that's very different than our security and public safety industry, right? So you have to know your audience, you have to know your sector. Some events may be very transactional. I think that's going to be really different to expect people to buy and sell, in a virtual platform. So, Peter and GSX, obviously very educationally focused. Same thing here with ISC West with our partner SIA. We're focusing definitely heavily on the educational side of it. And the engagement for sponsors can line into that as well. Some of the things that have worked on site at ISC West before, some of the vendor case studies, we're finding that those can be brought to life virtually, and there's a lot of interest for that. But also being realistic. Nobody's going to sit there for 4 straight days on a virtual platform. So I think, like GSX, we're spreading it out over 3 days in our case, knowing that people will probably, pick what spots they want to come into, what content is interesting. Maybe there's a networking activity for a subset group they're going to really enjoy. So we do view it as actually really stimulating for the future, more of the personalization, which I do think this is going to be an outtake for trade shows. The more and more personalization of hybrid of digital and face-to-face and how you can engage. We've been on that journey, but I actually think we're all gonna produce even better events because of that. In terms of the exhibitor side, we definitely, we're not trying to say, we can recreate an entire trade show floor. That's not what our goal is. More of an exhibitor resource center where you can set appointments, you can engage, you can download information, more of the one-to-one, but not trying to recreate an entire trade show floor. So that's the other thing is, and we're using On24 as a platform. It's not just October 5 through 7. We're going to really view it as a year-round platform, for engagement. And then when we come to the physical shows, just like other smart organizations, then you amplify the face-to-face plus digital. So it's really, kicking off that whole journey in earnest to where, that is a new business model.
Yeah, Janet, I think that Will really touched on something here. What's beautiful, if you will, about a virtual program is that it lives longer than the week of the live program. And in the association space, I've pushed the teams I've led for a long time to think about the annual meeting living longer than a year. But when it's a live event, there's only so much of that you can do. Look, you can record pieces most of the time. It's a cost-related challenge, right? Now COVID comes in. The gift it's given us is it's forced shows our size, some of our sizes, to have to invest more on the digital side. Ultimately, you're talking about, depending on show size, anywhere from $250,000 to more dollars in terms of investments to get this information, to capture it, to bundle it, to curate it, to get it on platforms that people can use. But Will is right. This is here to stay. I joke that there'll be COVID leftovers and there'll be COVID hangovers. The leftovers are a good thing. The hangovers a bad thing. There are going to be COVID hangovers. Financials are a big piece of that. But I think a COVID leftover is going to be organizations like ours here. We have to figure out, we're forced to figure out for once and for all, how to digitize these big shows and to make them really truly live longer as curated content for members or for customers or new niches we all find in new business lines. So Will really, I think, hit on something very important there.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think also, I've been doing tech events for 25 years. The old school mode was, oh my God, I'm so scared to have digital content during the face-to-face because less people will come. Forget that now. Right. We all know that there's certain people that just aren't going to be able to go to a face-to-face event. Right. Budget approvals, too far to travel. Right. We all have an opportunity to just embrace our communities and obviously have the face-to-face, but broadcast a lot more remote live content during the show. That's the new normal.
I think you're 100% right. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, what we're seeing in our industry, and obviously we handle a breadth of different industries. We're seeing that there's going to be a hybrid approach. At some point, like you said, 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, when we do get a vaccine and people feel more comfortable going back to shows, that's great. But there's always going to be that subset of this entire community, and even some of my own family members that probably won't want to travel. And that could be something that is systemic. So if that's going to happen, now you have this great opportunity to have this digital exhibit, digital event, whatever it may be, live on the internet for the next year or two, and you can update as you want to throughout the the course of time. So there is I think some exciting things happening. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you.
So let me ask you this. So what advice, and I'll start with you, Matt, what advice would you give to the marketing people out there as far as those who head the trade show divisions of their companies? What advice would you give them regarding virtual shows? Like what is the best thing they should think about? Because, of course, trade show personnel and companies have had to also pivot because they don't have shows coming up. You know what I mean? They've got to figure out how to strip booths down, how to go ahead and get their inventory into spaces that are less expensive, warehouses. I mean, there's a lot of logistics that goes beyond, just talking all about this. We understand that there's not, we're not going to try to belittle that, oh, it's just a trade show. We are needing to figure out how to use that. How do we use their team? What should they be looking for? Like, what's the biggest asset that they should be taking advantage of in these virtual trade shows? So Matt, I'm going to start with you. What's the biggest advice you can give a company in developing a successful virtual show?
I would say, most importantly, a lot of companies, especially in the first couple of months, really put their head in the sand and hoped it was going to go away. Guess what? It's not going away. You agree, right? It's not going away. So you have got to figure out, and this is a great way to challenge all those marketers out there. You think you're really good at marketing? Show me why you're really good at marketing right now. You have to figure out a way. Like, let's just take a company like, I won't just specific name right now, but a company that actually sells tactile products, a company that has to have to hear something, see something. How are you going to do that virtually? How are you planning on doing that virtually? So there's all sorts of challenges, without giving away the candy store right now. There's all sorts of challenges associated with that my marketing team and other companies we're working with are coming together and saying, all right, that's a great challenge. How do we go ahead and make this happen? Especially in the industry that we're talking about right now, like security, cameras, all that kind of stuff. People want to see it, touch it, feel it. How do we make that happen? We have to make that come to life. You can do that very successfully virtually, but if you just stay within the same, and I'm not saying On24 is not the right thing to do because it's a great platform, but you have to be able to branch out a little bit and say, how am I going to continue to make myself as an organization stand out? Just like you did in face-to-face marketing. It's who you put in the space, what the talk track was, how the exhibit looked, what was done in the pre-show, what was done during the show, what was done in social media, what was done after the show, how the salespeople were following up, what type of giveaways are there. All that sort of stuff ties into how you were going to make an event successful in the face-to-face. But you can use some of those elements I'm talking about in the virtual world. And that's kind of what my creative team, which has done a fantastic job over the last 4 months pivoting, has been doing for our customers. And we're working in association with companies like Reed and Freeman and those type of companies, and saying, how do we do this collectively together to make a better experience for our attendees as well as for the actual exhibitors?
All right, so then you're like me, Matt. You talk with your hands, so I love it.
I'm Italian.
All right, so let's go.
He's Italian. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to talk with his hands.
Right. Will, let's go to you. What's your advice that you would give anybody trying to navigate in this virtual trade show environment? I mean, seriously, give me you guys are the heads of these companies that, are putting and gathering and trying to pull off a trade show still, even though we can meet face to face in reality. So what is your advice to someone trying to navigate this?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, trade show managers, event managers, this is a very stressful time in terms of their own career skills. So I think the people we've been seeing that have really been stepping it up have said, wow, this is actually an opportunity if you're in an events department to really take on that integrated marketing role and bring all the pieces of the company together. It's actually a fantastic opportunity. So the companies I've seen the last few months have really embraced that. and really looked at it as that fully integrated marketing opportunity. Get your digital teams involved. I mean, traditionally, sometimes people don't even get their digital teams involved when it comes to trade shows. So I think it's a chance for more integration. The other thing, I think any of our online platforms, whether it's 3 days at once or other things, use it as an opportunity to get new customers coming in that you've never ever seen face-to-face at an event. So it actually does open up, I think, more additional new business opportunity. Don't just think about your immediate universe.
All right, and how about you?
Yeah.
And it's really great advice. So Peter,
Yeah, I think, sorry, forgive me. Will gave great advice about the integration piece. Totally 100% agree with Will. I think the other piece, a couple of things I would add on to what Will and Matt are saying are this. One is we cannot worry about what we can't control. Right now in this pandemic, from a business perspective, specific now, right now to trade shows, we have to build on what we can control. And we have to be willing to understand that there are a lot of things we can't control and be willing to recognize the difference and decide to put our energies into the piece we can control. I think for sponsors and for exhibitors, they have to take the responsibility to understand first, what are they trying to achieve digitally, virtually, that they need to be able to achieve and they can't achieve on in a way that they're not going to be able to achieve on site. So they've got to kind of get square with themselves. And I think Will's point about integration between digital and related marketing, right? That's a first piece. I can't solve those problems for those folks, those challenges for those folks. Once they're clear about what success looks like for them, I think shows like ISC West, GSX Plus, and others, we can help them achieve their goals in a digital virtual world. I think it's a challenge sometimes when companies present to us, well, we want we want to do X. Okay, what do you want to achieve as Y results? So we haven't decided that. Well, okay, that makes it difficult for us to be a really good consultative partner to you. So we have to have a conversation about that. We get to where they need to be ultimately, but I think digital is different. It's not bad. It's just different. And each customer, each partner of ours has to figure out what does that mean to them, so that Will and I and Matt, we can help also be their partners. And we have solution ideas for them too, if they need it, coming to us with saying, what can you do for us? We obviously have Matt and Will and I, our teams have those answers, but it's very much a partnership and it's very much a give and take.
And you're right. The partnership is where it needs to start. The questions need to be asked. I mean, the thing is, don't be afraid to ask them. And there's no stupid questions at all. Are you providing the one?
Sorry, I was going to say, someone said once, and I don't know who said it. It wasn't me. Trust is the residue of promises kept. And I think when you come in, yeah, you're so smart. It could be you. But, I really believe that's true. If Will and Matt and I and our teams are knocking on doors with people where there aren't relationships built on trust and mutual respect, now is not the time to build that. That becomes a very difficult thing to try to build in a digital virtual environment. And I think one of the places where we've seen success at GSX, at ASIS through GSX, I'd imagine Matt and Will have experienced the same, is the relationships we've built, the promises we've kept have helped us get into doors and have conversations that cold calling right now, knock, 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 is not going to work. So I think trust is the residue of promises kept.
Well, and that's very well said. Here's the question I have. One of the things that we go to shows for is to have meetings and to have networking. Networking is such a lifeline to our industry for sure, because it gets you to meet new people and really make that conversation. And as a salesperson in this industry, it's got to be really hard right now to give the that type of networking a go. Are you creating any segments as far as during the virtual trade shows of like chat rooms to discuss this or chat rooms to discuss that? Meet your peers, getting conversation. Here, this room, we're going to be talking about the East Coast people, or, we're talking about video here. We're going to talk about access control here. Anybody interested in that? Start a conversation. Are you giving any kind of rooms for a networking opportunity where you have a Zoom call and people can basically discuss with one another?
Will, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an opportunity. One thing that we sort of tested out, probably 3 months ago, is okay, with the face-to-face events, there is so much sort of matchmaking and helping people connect, between like open projects and then what's a match with the exhibitor. we've had a lot of success doing that just digitally this year with like the VIP audiences. So I do expect some of that can happen at these contained virtual events, but we're starting to see success, including with some of the other events I do, to do online meetups based on certain topics, based on certain job functions. But it's not necessarily all going to be at one point in time, but way more qualified relative to, is there a topic of interest, and then actually inviting specific people, having a moderator. I do think that's here to stay, throughout the year, right? Because any of our big events, right, they're not taking place every week, every month. So more continuity between the face-to-face. I think this is actually one of the benefits, and Peter, you brought it up, Matt, that I think we're going to bridge between the face-to-face for the long term with more of these kind of meetups.
Yeah. Ditto to what Will said. I think he said it well. I would build on that by saying that, ultimately, we're in a sales environment. We're going to do our best, Will and Matt and I, to help make sure our clients, our customers are getting what they need. If we haven't built it and it's a reasonable request, or we haven't thought of it, if I didn't know what Zoom was and I found out tomorrow it was so easy to upload and, put people in chat rooms and we could do it easily and cost effectively, done, right? I think Will and Matt probably would likely do the same thing, right? So yes, on the Freeman platform, there's all sorts of different opportunities for those types of private, quote unquote, if you will, private chats. And the On24 platform, ASIS uses for its, I'll call it non-GSX plus learning environment. So I know that platform pretty well. Great platform for a virtual event to boot. So yeah, I think there's lots of ways for us to support our customers and our partners from Matt's and Will's and my perspective. But it's that open dialogue of what success looked like for you, what success looked like for us, what can we deliver on? I think, one of the things, I have a great sales team and I love these guys and gals dearly, right? They sell, but I'm always really mindful to say, what you sell, we have to deliver on. So we've got to make sure that our operations and our sales teams are always lockstep, such that if Will sells something to Janet, Matt can actually implement it. Matt doesn't come down the hall and go, what do you mean you just sold a Zoom chat room? What is Zoom? We don't do that. We don't have a chat room, right? It's got to be there. And we've got to be careful, I think, at least on the ASIS side, to make sure that we're, over delivering on what we're promising folks. And I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, just to kind of build upon everything everybody's saying. I mean, the other thing we're seeing on our side of the business is that because some of the shows you're going to do are going to go virtual and there's going to be opportunities to stay within that platform, there's also opportunities to let that, and we talked about having to live on definitely for another year, not definitely, but maybe a little bit longer. But there's also ways to actually engage those customers in meaningful, smaller sampling of so for instance, like you said, like, hey, look, I'm selling appliances, I'm selling grill, something outside for cooking, grills, whatever it may be. And maybe you actually invite 25 of your top customers to this and bring in a chef, and the chef comes in, all sorts of things happen outside. You send the food to them ahead of time. You kind of build excitement. You can actually do things other than just things that are done within the certain platforms that live within the shows, and actually have other smaller micro engagements that are happening, like those chat rooms you're talking about, but taking it one step further. And maybe it's, and people have probably done this already, even on this call, you guys have probably done it. It's digital poker, or it's, I'm going to have you meet with a mixologist, and the mixologist is going to show you how to make different drinks. You're going to have a happy hour with some of your customers, or you can do all sorts of things. So there's ways right now, and I find it to be exciting. I mean, at first, yes, it's fearful. Everybody was fearful. We all understand that in the beginning, but now we're like, all right, what are we going to do? I still have to market my products. I still have to stay in front of my customers. So let's do it. How else are we going to do this? And we're finding great success with that, with the things I just talked about. We're finding great success with the small road shows. We're also finding success with a lot of organizations going from having one big corporate office to saying, you know what, I should probably do, maybe I should have satellite offices and a little bit of a showroom. So you might have like 3 or 4 smaller showrooms all throughout the country that people can drive to. And maybe you get one next to one of your bigger customers. You're like, hey, I want you to be able to come in this and come into my showroom and see what we're doing here. And it's a small engagement. People are wearing masks. It's very safe. That's what we're kind of seeing. And we've been very much involved in that with a lot of different organizations, building small showrooms for them, building road shows, building the trailers, doing the virtual stuff, doing the micro engagements. To me, I've been doing this for 26 years, just like you guys. It's been great. I mean, yes, it's tough to have the face-to-face go by, to the wayside. It is for now. But this has been challenging, and it's really engaged a different part of my brain and a lot of people within our organization, and I think within our industry. Would you guys agree?
Totally agree.
Totally agree.
Definitely. I mean, the venues around the country are really stepping up too. I think we're seeing that for sure from the health and safety preparation. But like Javits Center in New York, we do a lot of events there. They've got now a digital broadcast center in the building. So I think there's actually going to be a ton of good innovation for once we're into kind of more of the normal mode. So
a few hangovers and a few leftovers. It'll be great.
Right, exactly.
Well, the hangovers, I think our industry's used to, so I think we're good.
Right.
No, so in summary, I just definitely want to go ahead and bring a couple of things to light. So there are a lot of options. There are definitely different roads people can take as far as taking their brand to market, getting themselves out there to basically showcase what they need to showcase. There's different out-of-the-box thinking. There's also, with these virtual shows, I definitely encourage, reach out to somebody from GSX Plus or to ISC to learn more about them and how they're being run, how they can take advantage, and where they can be a part of it. Because I know that you guys are definitely communicating this on basically a daily basis now on how this is going to go off. I am definitely looking at the communication. I want to know more. This is going to be the first virtual show that I attend, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the industry that's also going to be attending a virtual show for the first time in this magnitude. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is pulled off. And luckily, Will, you're able to go ahead and learn from GSX Plus as as the next show after. So whatever GSX.
Oh, don't worry, we'll learn from them too. It's all fair.
It's
all good.
Plus and Will Wise, you're
all good.
definitely having the advantage of taking a look to see what more you can do on the heels of that. So I definitely commend you guys for taking these platforms virtually. I wish you all a lot of luck because I know it hasn't been an easy feat. Your staff are all fantastic. Seriously, I could definitely go on and on about the GSX staff, and also Will Wise, you know how I love your team tremendously. And Matt, you and I go back about 16 years doing shows, events, experience events, everything from
executive briefing centers. We did a ton of stuff
to trade shows. So for sure, anybody who wants more information, I'll be more than happy. When I do post this, I will put your contact information on their map because I think people need to know what the advantages are, and I will put the contact information for GSX Plus, and also, not that unless you live under a rock, or information for ISC. So thank you so much, everybody. I really
thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Janet.
Thanks, you guys.